Hey guys, welcome to this section where we're going to be talking about objects in details. So before even we get started or get ahead of ourselves, let's just quickly rewind what objects are. So in JavaScript, almost everything is an object. Yes, when I say everything, it means everything is an object. So we have booleans. So we already saw that we can have booleans as an object. We have numbers. We've already seen that too. We have strings. We have date. We have math. Remember math.round, math.floor. Yes, all these were also objects. Remember regular expressions, then arrays, functions, and objects themselves. So these are the objects that are there in JavaScript. So how are they different than primitives? Well, the primitives are of 5 different types. 3 are very obvious, which are string, boolean, number. These are very obvious. But the other one we talked about was null and undefined. So these are the primitives and these are the objects. Objects in JavaScript. And this is primitives in JavaScript. Okay, if you want to write your objects, you'll probably write something like this. Let me just quickly give you examples of each of these when you want to create a new object. Let's just create a variable x1 is equals to new boolean and the brackets. So that's your x1, which is a boolean. Then we can create a number. I will update the x1s later, so let me just quickly copy this. String, date. There's a reason why I did not copy math, and I'll tell you that shortly. Regex, arrays, function. So if you need to create an object like that, you can very well go ahead and create such an object. And the last one is the object itself. So if you need to create an object, you can create it like that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, there is a reason why I did not have math as an object, because math is a global object. The new keyword cannot be used on math. So we can say objects are variables containing variables. JavaScript can contain single values. So let's say, for example, variable person is equals to John Doe. That's very well a person, but that's just a string. So you can contain a variable, or you can have name and value pairs. So if you have seen the data types, we have already discussed this. A person usually is defined with a name and a value pair. So let's say person string, and this becomes name value pair, which is first name is John, last name is Doe, age is, let's say, 30, eye color, I think we gave blue. So that's how you define a person. Now, I know it's for reference, but just wanted to throw it out there for you guys. Is in PHP, when you are in PHP, there are associative arrays, where you can have arrays with the name as an index versus an index. In Python, these are called dictionaries. In C, they are nothing but the hash tables. So if you can relate to these languages, I'm just throwing it out there so that you know what these map to in those languages, and it probably becomes easier for you to grasp it. So hash maps in Java, hashes in Ruby and Perl. Objects are very similar to what you have these, which is associative arrays. In Python you have dictionaries, in C hash tables, hash maps in Java, and hashes in Ruby and Perl. Now when you give anything as a variable in an object, it's nothing but it's called a property. So the name value pairs that you see are nothing but as properties. So this is a property, this is a property, this is a property, and this is a property. And they have a value. Similarly, we can also have functions. So for example, let me just separate this out on different lines so it's easier for you to see. And if you recollect, we have covered this, that objects can also contain functions. So let's say we have a full name as a function. Now if we have this, we can just say return this dot first name plus space plus this dot last name. Sorry, I have reduced my font, and that's the reason this is going on to the new line. And then we put in a semicolon. These are object methods. What they do is, object methods are nothing but are actions that can be performed on that particular object. So when I want to perform a full name action on person, probably I'll use this method. Now object properties can be both primitive values and other objects and functions. So when I give a first name, it can be just a string or literal value, or it can also be another object or a function. An object method is an object property containing a function definition. So you can see this, it's nothing but it's basically again another property, but it just contains a function. So that's a method for you. There are three ways of creating an object. So the first one that we have is by using an object literal. Let me move this down so that it's easier and it stays together. So there are three ways of creating. One is object literal, the other is the new keyword, and the third one is using the constructor. We will see all these three, and let's go and start with the first one, which is the object literal. This is the most easiest way to create a JavaScript object. Using an object literal, you can define and create an object in one statement. An object literal is a list of name value pairs, which we have already seen. So the moment we created the person like this, that's nothing but an object literal. So let me just copy paste it here, and let's just call it a person smarter, just so that we know that this person is a little smart. Okay, so that's your object literal. It's very straightforward, and we've already done that. The next we have is by using a keyword called as new. So let's say variable person smarter than smarter. I don't know what is this, but a new object. Let's call it a new object. Now what we can do is we can use this and we can create properties for it. Let's say this first name is equals to John. Let's just copy this. Let's make this last name. This is Doe. And so on and so forth. So you can keep on adding properties to it. It's very straightforward. Now the most common thing, or usually you want to reuse things. You don't want to, all the time write the same person object. We wrote once here, we wrote twice here, and probably we were writing the third time here. So it's not useful to write it all the time. What I would say is there is a better way, and it's called the constructor way. How do we do that? So what we do is we create a function and we call it as a person. Now we call first, last, age, and eye color. Now what we do inside is we have a this dot first name is equals to first, this dot last name is equals to last, this dot age is equals to age, this dot I is equals to I. Now when you want to create a new variable, let's say mother equals, you will just say new person. So now you have a constructor where you can keep on calling this new person, and what you will do is you will pass in the values. Let's say I say Jim, comma, the last name is the same, Doe, the age is probably 70 years, eye color is black. Similarly, you can, oh, that's mother, so let's call her Jenny. Let's create father. Again, it can be created very easily. You just do a father, you do a Jim, Doe, let them be the same age, and that's your constructor. Easy, right? Now let's just talk quickly about the this keyword, because it's very important to understand what this keyword means. In JavaScript, the thing called this is the object that owns the JavaScript code. So let's say if you're calling this in the context of this function, this is what owns this function. So you have everything inside this code block you can reference using a this. The value of this when used in a function is the object that owns the function. The value of this when used in an object is the object itself. The this keyword in an object constructor does not have a value. It is only a substitute for a new object. The value of this will become the new object when the constructor is used to create an object. And what we saw here were nothing but just built-in constructors. So you can see these are nothing but constructors which are already present. The moment you do a new of that particular item, and that becomes your constructor. So that was it from at least the object perspective. I'll see you in the next class where we'll cover the properties and methods in detail.